hello. Welcome to Alms round part 2. Yeah, let's begin. Uh this stuff makes me scared. The idea of doing my own alms. And again, I'm not trying to harken back or go back in time to yesteryear and become a monk. There's an underlying spirit that can be understood through the act of begging for alms and giving alms. And when I think about how YouTube is used, a great explanation or understanding for me is alms. So on my path, on what I'm doing, basically where I want to start from today is the fact that the food we eat powers our body and gives us energy. And any idea we have comes from the base that is the food we eat. And any human being, no matter what idea or religion they believe in, using religion as a template for ideas, we can all eat the same food. We all do eat the same food. Being human beings in the species Homo sapien, we are all definitively supposed to be eating the general same types of food. There's no human being that really eats rocks and lava and stones and sunlight. No, most human beings eat greens and vegetables and meat from certain animals like cows and chicken. And you might be like, speaker right now, why are you being so general and so basic? I'm not a child. Hold up. And we are all children, in fact. We are all learning how to be human for the first time. So let's always be humble enough to go back to a childlike mind. I'm scared of making videos like this because I don't know if the people watching will see value in what it is I'm doing. I already see the value in what I'm doing because I haven't seen anyone else really try to do what I'm doing. Because no one is me. I'm the only one being me. And I hope that the world can give back to me as much as I'm trying to give back to it. And my idea of alms is that by your personal practice, your personal spiritual or mystic practice, whether that's yoga or Zen or Buddhism or mystic Christianity, the world will give back to you. It's not, maybe it won't always be a literal person who will give you food in exchange in alms. Maybe it will be being born in an auspicious place that has fruits and vegetables that you can always eat from so that you can spend your time on the spiritual path. But it's not always going to be a governmental organization that somehow gives concessions to certain religious groups. Real spirituality isn't found in any certain piece of flesh. There's no institution that can hold spirit. There's no institution that can hold Christ or the Buddha nature. I don't like the ways of the Pope or the Dalai Lama or certain traditions and figures who try to centralize and verticalize spirituality. Not that they're wrong, it's just not my path. And I don't have to accept their path. But we live in a world where the majority have this. Again, here's my little memory verse. In rebirth, the focus of non-local spirit has fallen into sympathy with his body as its subject. It has done so by its desire, not to mention its thirst to become particulate, skanda. So, what has fallen into rebirth? Non-local spirit. It's like any ball game you can play. Where's the goal? on one side or the other of the court. And you have to make sure you score in the right goal or your team doesn't get the points. But from the perspective of spirit, everything is the goal and everyone is on everyone else's team. There is no division, separation, or segregation in reality. Any division, segregation, or separation that is perceived is an illusion. All is one is all. So personally, I don't actually believe in religions because that's childish. You have to get over the religious mind that says, I know what God is, I know what spirituality is. You have to realize that if you know, what's so hard for anybody else to know? We're all Homo sapiens. We all share the same amount of DNA. We all share most of our DNA with orangutans and chimpanzees too. So you have human beings that like to segregate and divide and discriminate between each other, and bad dads, by the way, too. Not human beings, but bad fathers, bad mothers. The mothers who think they're right. The fathers who know best. That's why we're stuck in the way we are. So the reason I feel like I'm scared of doing alms is because of bad dads and bad moms in other not societies, in other families. And I have to be scared that those bad dads and bad moms, just like in slavery times, all those white people who owned slaves, bad dads and bad moms. Maybe they were doing everything by the law, but just because the law lets you do it doesn't mean it's right. So, all to say, I want people and the world to give back to me the same way I give back to it. It's not that I don't believe in violence. It's not that I don't believe in war and famine. I choose not to live in that world because all of this stuff is made up. And you might feel bad in me saying that. But right now, there are children in Israel and Palestine and many places who are starving, dying, getting killed, tortured, murdered, whatever. And you don't know about that. And ignorance is bliss. Stay in that ignorance. But don't pull me into your ignorance. I'm trying to get strong for the world around me. And I believe that there are others who will support me in this path. What I've realized is religion is fake. Religion is for children. We need to get past the religion, take out the good tools like the Eightfold Yoga Path or the Noble Eightfold Path. And the Ten Commandments don't really belong in the same sphere as the Eightfold Yoga Path or the Noble Eightfold Path. The Ten Commandments are a little bit different. But if you can pierce through the Ten Commandments, you can consider it. Because it's just random numbers. I can pick any number and make a set of rules that go along with it. Or 7 chakras. It doesn't really matter. 7 eyes on the 7-horned lamb with a whatever. You know what I mean? Make whatever up you want. But make sure you live a good life and you don't hurt the people around you and you love and you connect with compassion and wisdom. You can do whatever you want. That's what the thing is. Get over religion. If you want to have a religion that starts with wisdom, loving kindness, and compassion. And if you don't, if your religion is believe in the one true God first, I don't care for you. Go somewhere else with that one true God. I don't care whatever God you believe in. Are you loving in kindness? Are you compassionate? And do you have wisdom? Because anyone with wisdom would understand that it sounds like you want to play a sport. Oh, here's my ball. Unless you play my sport, then you're not even athletic. You have to play basketball. You have to be Islam. If you're not Islam, then are you even religious? Do you even know who God is? No, let's not get there. No, I don't care what you believe in. Are you peaceful? Are you loving in kindness? Are you compassionate? Do you have wisdom? And all those are the same thing. You realize in the Noble Eightfold Path and the Eightfold Yoga Path that, let me get it right now because it's actually interesting. Give me 1 second. got this a while ago, and when I went on a little vacation trip, and it's a saucy book. But any book can be a saucy book when you realize that there was a human who wrote this. So, a common one that I recently found, chapter 2, verse 48. Perform your duty equiposed, O Arjuna, abandoning all attachment to success or failure. Such equanimity is called yoga. And in the same breath, we can go to Luke chapter 2, verse 48 in the Bible, the one for the Hebrews. This one is for some different tribes and different clans. But the ones for the Hebrew clans, that one is the Torah, the Bible. It goes on and on. So basically in Luke chapter 2, verse 48, Jesus is a young child, and his parents took him in a caravan during Passover or some holiday to the main city. He ends up staying over while his parents go back in the caravan. And when the parents return to the city to look for Jesus, they search for 3 days. On the third day, they find him in the temple, debating and talking with the head priests, and they are surprised. And in chapter 2, verse 48 of Luke, verse 48 is Jesus is saying, basically, why were you looking for me? You should have known I was in my Father's house. So, this idea of abandoning success and a failure is what Mary and Joseph should have done. They should have already, based off of the whole history, we already know Jesus' birth and everything. Now, Jesus is quote unquote they don't know where he is. He's disappeared. He's gone. So in those 3 days where he was gone from his parents is a mirror of the 3 days where he was actually dead, quote unquote dead, but he was reborn. And again, by the way, I don't believe any of this. These are all just stories. I'll talk about Invincible and Dragon Ball next week. It doesn't matter, right? But we have a mirror, right? I'm not a pastor. I like Star Wars too. I'll talk about Metachlorian soon. So we have 3 childish days versus 3 grown-up days. One where again the people think he's lost. The people who think they're closest to him, whether it's disciples, whether it's his parents. They don't know where he is lost. The whole time, where has Jesus been? Where has the Christ nature been? With non-local spirit, the Father. Very interesting. So, if you do your duties, let's go back to chapter 2, verse 48. Abandoning all attachment to success or failure. In Mary and Joseph already being given the task that they have been given. Leave it to God. God said y'all were ready. And okay, so this is what I'm saying. Here's where I'm connecting it. Mary and Joseph should have left it to God. They shouldn't have been worried. They should have known that Jesus was in his Father's house. So now we get to the fight in Star Wars. I forget, the Phantom Menace or whatever, the first one. This is even before they get to Anakin Skywalker, the virgin-born boy, right? The virgin-born chosen one again. So in the Mustafar or whatever, the battle actually starts, and this as much as people have spent tens of thousands of years to elucidate and write scriptures on this, that, and the other. We got real quick, because as much y'all probably can't see that well, but the way I'm being all like nerdy talking about Star Wars, I just watched a YouTube video on it recently, is the same way that there were old geezers tens of thousands of years ago who were nerdy about the Vedic texts and principles. So the same way that there are people, I can be nerdy about Star Wars, I can also be nerdy about the Bhagavad Gita. And in the same way, I want to say in the same breath, I'm not a bookworm, not in any way, shape, or form. I like reading some words, I like skimming, and then I will move on and actually practice myself. So, in my opinion, it's either all fake or all real. And there are some businessmen, some greedy fathers out there who will make you believe in what they believe in just so they can get your worldly energy. Don't give them your worldly energy. So, on Mustafar, not Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan and his master Qui-Gon Jinn are in a fight with Darth Maul, the horned red-skinned guy. And basically in that fight, Darth Maul looks like he's gonna beat them 2-on-1. And some shields end up coming up. And we know Sith like to use their fear and intimidation tactics to disturb the connection that Jedi have with their Force, because that's how they use the Force, through fear and intimidation. Versus Jedi are kind of like Green Lanterns, whereas like the Sith are kind of like Yellow Lanterns. Again, it's all random nonsense. You put it together in a story that makes sense to you. Basically, Qui-Gon Jinn sits down and meditates. And in the act of sitting down and meditating, he is showing and exemplifying what it truly means to be a Jedi. And even though Darth Maul has been able to defeat Jedi after Jedi after Jedi, he cannot defeat Qui-Gon Jinn, because in this moment where he could have let his fear and anxiety take over against this Sith Lord, he decided to commune with the Force again. And in that same way of communing with the Force, we have, it says, Arjuna said, "Oh Krishna." So Krishna can be a stand-in for the Force itself. Arjuna is like a Jedi. And he's asking, first of all, you ask me to renounce work. And then again, you recommend work with devotion. Now, you kindly tell me definitely, which of the two is more beneficial? So it's this idea of like, so when you're working with the Force, are you working with the Force to reach your own desires, or are you doing it for the sake of the Force itself? Qui-Gon Jinn was someone who sometimes broke the rules that the Jedi Council gave to him. And that's because he wasn't listening to the Jedi Council, he was listening to the Force itself. And whatever the Force asked him to do, he would do. Even if that meant killing a dark Sith beast that wasn't really doing anything wrong. But the Force willed him into that action, and he said, if that's what the Force wants me to do, then I'll do it. That's the same battle that Arjuna is having with Krishna right now, where Arjuna is saying that I don't want to kill the other army. It's full of my family and friends. That's going to make me, Arjuna, feel bad in my human material sphere. Now, Krishna is saying no. The Force is like, no, you might think that by not killing them, you're making yourself feel better, but actually, whatever the Force wants will happen, because the Force is what ties everything together. And there's a scene where Lord Krishna shows him shows Arjuna his all-devouring face. And in that way, when you look at this all-devouring face, that's like this ultimate scene of greed. And that really scared Arjuna. But in the same way, there's this scene where they say like Yoda had a talk with, what's his name? Not Grievous. There's one, not Palpatine. he's a I'm forgetting his name right now, but Yoda basically asked one of the Sith Lords, who is Qui-Gon Jinn's master, I believe, but I'm forgetting his name. Count Dooku, yes. So Yoda had a meeting with Count Dooku, and Yoda was like, Count Dooku, what's so tantalizing about the Force? What's so interesting, not about the Force, but what's so interesting about the dark side of the Force? And that's the last thing I'll end off on. Because on one side, you have you have the Noble Eightfold Path being the quote unquote Jedi way. But when you actually read the story, you see how the Jedi, after 1,000 years ago, they beat all the Sith, and now they're ruling. Their ultimate rule, where they were the only ones in power, is what led to the decay that created the Sith Empire and Palpatine and all of that. It was the very fact that they won that sealed the loss. And the harder they are, again, a peaceful galactic empire of 1,000 years, the harder they fucking fall. And like when you look at on the Sith side with the rule of two, master disciple, master disciple, master disciple, even like the disciple is the one that ends up killing the master, and it's always going from 100% Sith to 50% Sith. 50 100 50 100, and it's always that like when you look at not 50 100 50 100, but it's kind of like 0101 binary code in electronics. But when you look at like the Sith after that 1,000 year battle, they were really on a certain tip of like 010101. All the power is focused on a single in two-part relationship, whereas in the Jedi everything was so spread apart they couldn't even have a singular or base understanding of what the light side of the Force even was at the end. So again, let me ramble. These are my videos. I know what I'm trying to get to. um, our true nature, our good side of the Force, is intertwined with the bad side of the Force. In the Zen koans, you have the idea of thinking neither good or nor evil. What is the original nature of the monk mule? So when ending off on Qui-Gon Jinn, what made him one of the best Jedi ever was the fact that he was able to always commune with the Force, understand the Force, and give himself to the Force. The same way Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita is being asked to give himself to the Krishna, Christ, Buddha nature consciousness. Thank you. I had a great time with this Alms today, and hope to see you again soon.